had an intuition about the fact that human beings could heal themselves.
Integrative medicine expert Deepak Chopra offers insights about coping with fear and anxiety.
Stress is the perception of threat. I like to think of stress like waves on the ocean. So if you're a skillful surfer, then every wave is joy and exhilaration.
The renowned physician also thinks anyone can harness the mind to bring about optimal health and well-being.
His super brain is an integrated brain.
Meditation and mindful living can solve global conflict as well, Chopra says.
The only solution is a creative solution in consciousness.
And the New Age guru to celebrities talks about his close friend, the late Michael Jackson.
Michael was like a brother to me. He was very joyful. He was a genius.
I spoke to Deepak Chopra in New York as he was preparing to publish a new book. You have been called a philosopher, an entrepreneur, an author, a New Age savant, an endocrinologist, a mystic. Which of these titles do you prefer?
I think if you define yourself, you limit yourself. So none of them.
Or all of them?
I would say infinite possibilities.
You were a practicing physician, though.
I still am.
When you came to the United States, you practiced medicine. What was that experience like?
The experience was very interesting because I trained in internal medicine and then in endocrinology and then in neuroendocrinology. So I was studying the molecules of emotion. And so that got me interested in how our consciousness influences our biology.
What I'm trying to get at is what was your lifestyle like? Because I've heard it was pretty stressful for you.
In the beginning, the lifestyle was very hectic, a lot of smoking and a lot of alcohol on occasions.
Why? Why did you need that?
It was the zeitgeist of the time. Everybody did it. We'd do a life resuscitation, take care of a cardiac arrest, intubate the patient, go out and have a cigarette. In fact, when I came, during conferences, all the doctors used to smoke. So I just joined the club.
And being part of the club meant smoking cigarettes and drinking
All
whiskey, I understand it.
Yes.
After a time, I understand that your beliefs in medicine, even though you were still living in the States, started to turn eastward again.
I started exploring as a result of my training, actually. I mentioned that we were looking at the molecules of emotion. So I was seeing a connection between consciousness and biology. I also was puzzled by the fact that you could have two patients who had the same illness. They received the same treatment, they saw the same doctor, but they could have completely different outcomes. So one could recover, the other could die. What was happening? I was confused. So that's when I started actually looking into Eastern wisdom traditions, meditation, systems biology is a good word to explain it.
Can you clarify? I've never heard this term, molecules of emotion. What are those? Do we all have those?
Yeah, so every emotion has the biological expression. If you're feeling love, compassion, joy, empathy, equanimity, then your brain starts to make things like dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, opiates, endorphins. Now these are antidepressants, but they also are immunomodulators. On the other hand, if you're feeling hostility, anger, resentment, guilt, depression, any of those, fear, then of course you make adrenaline, but you also make cortisol, which weakens the immune system and has many other effects. So every moment, your genes are influenced by what you're feeling, what you're thinking, even the way you speak, how you look at the environment, your eating, your sleeping habits. This is a new science which wasn't there even 10 years ago.
Right. It's the whole epigenetics field that we're hearing more about. So just to boil down what you said and to make sure I understand it, you are an endocrinologist. You're sort of studying the different chemicals that influence our brains and our immune systems, and you start realizing at some point that if we can control these chemicals, we can actually create biologically beneficial outcomes.
That's a good way to say it. Our body moves between two states. One is inflammation, but inflammation is also a protective response. So if you fall down, you injure yourself, you need the inflammatory response so you don't bleed to death. But exaggerated inflammation or inappropriate inflammation, directly or indirectly, contributes to heart disease, cardiovascular accidents, autoimmune illnesses, infections, many types of cancer. Now, the other extreme is what is called homeostasis, which means your body is self-regulating and in perfect balance. Okay, so we are always moving between these two extremes. Homeostasis could be called the healing system, which we never learned about in medical school, by the way.
Your father was an eminent cardiologist in India. So what did he think when you started sort of exploring these unorthodox therapies?
In the beginning, he was very disappointed because he thought I had wasted my education. And
he really had wanted you to be
a
doctor.
He very much wanted me to be. But when I explained to him the science behind what I was doing and how this was one day going to be, I had never heard the word epigenetics or neuroplasticity, which are now very common words. But I had an intuition about the fact that human beings could heal themselves.
Do you feel like science has somewhat validated these theories that you were talking about?
Science has totally validated what I was talking about. In the 80s, I wrote a book called Quantum Healing, which, by the way, was very popular with the layperson. So whatever I said was very popular with the general public, but not with medical people. Yeah, I was called a charlatan, a fraud, all kinds of things.
One of the things you espouse is this mind-body connection.
Correct.
And meditation is the vehicle by which you seem to say we can sort of gain control of our realities. Does that work for everyone?
If somebody is interested, yes, it works for everyone. Meditation as in mindfulness of your life, mindfulness of your choices, awareness of your body, awareness of your mind space, your relationships, self-reflection, self-awareness, mindfulness, meditation. We have a paper coming out in a few months that we've just worked with 6 universities, where even in 4 days of the practice of meditation, the level of the enzyme telomerase, which controls biological age at the cellular level, went up by 40% in less
Wait,
than
you're
4
telling
days.
me if I meditate and I'm self-aware, I can...
You will influence your biological age significantly.
Like, are we talking wrinkles?
We talk, well, wrinkles are due to
the
loss
bags
of
under our eyes?
collagen, yes. We're talking blood pressure, wrinkles, bone density, immune function, cholesterol, HDL ratios, hormone levels.
See, that sounds unbelievable to me. What's the science behind it? What's the mechanism?
There's already science has published. Elizabeth Blackburn, a Nobel laureate, along with Dean Ornish and the University of California, in just the last 3 years published levels of enzyme telomerase going up with meditation and lifestyle changes, with diet as well, with sleep, proper sleep.
How long does one have to meditate every day?
It's instantaneous with every meditation.
Even with all the stresses of modern life?
Yeah, what's the stress? Stress is the perception of threat, either psychological threat or emotional threat or physical threat. I like to think of stress like waves on the ocean. So if you're a skillful surfer, then every wave is joy and exhilaration. And if you're not prepared, then every wave is a disaster.
So what's your prescription, though? If meditation is a sort of medicine, what's the dosage?
The research studies have suggested that about 20 minutes once or twice a day, preferably twice a day, is more than adequate.
Deepak Chopra's answer to ending every world conflict coming up.